be really, really careful about the posts that are complaining about employers and these types of companies and what recruiters and hiring managers are and are not doing, because guess what? They are the ones that have the complete control of whether or not you get an interview. And if you are blasting the fact that recruiters are ghosting you left and right, it's just going to hurt you.
Giselle, it is so good to have you here again.
It is so good to be back. Thank you.
For those of you listening, this is episode 2 of 3 with Giselle. And so we're getting to know Giselle a little bit better. We are learning in the first episode, which was 105, how to build organic relationships in a way that you can network without it feeling so salesy or sleazy or self-serving, right? So we talked about that in episode 105. Go ahead and catch that. And today we're really focusing on going above and beyond, which is really needed in the market. So, why don't you kick us off, Giselle? What are your thoughts on the why behind needing to go above and beyond in today's market?
Yeah, today's job market, I have just found with so many job seekers, is so hard to stand out, to be found. And so, one of the ways that I encourage job seekers is to make their LinkedIn profile visible so that it is found when recruiters and hiring managers are looking to fill specific roles. And so I help my clients really try to make their LinkedIn profile something that really speaks towards the positions that they are interested in and those that they're targeting by utilizing, so many of the keywords and the qualifications, requirements, accomplishments, all the things that they're finding are being sought out by these recruiters and hiring managers for these positions, and really making sure that their profiles highlight so much of that in a bunch of different sections, not just in, their about section or not just in their experience, but really all throughout, so that when someone finds them, they're like, oh, I want to get to know this person a little bit more. They sound like someone that really, matches what we're looking for.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know what? The very first thing you said there was visibility. And so I'm like, let me just backtrack for a quick second. You may have previously, for security reasons and for other reasons, set your settings so that your profile is not visible by people who are not logged into LinkedIn, or so it's not visible by anybody except your connections, people who are already connected with you on LinkedIn. And so let me just start there. Like the very basic of visibility is making sure those settings are in place. So head over into the little avatar on the top right of your LinkedIn profile on a computer, bottom left on a mobile phone, and just go into your settings, go into visibility, and make sure that all of the visibility settings give you the maximum amount of possibility. Now, going into, Giselle's point, right? Everything on your LinkedIn is sort of a website, and there's search engine optimization that's used for search when the recruiters are searching for your name or searching for your skill sets or searching for your title, which really skill sets and title is more what we're talking about. And then there's also the algorithm in terms of not just who they're going to search for and whether or not you come up, but also on whose feed you turn up, right? If you post something, whose feed are you going to turn up on? And what's going to be visible on your feed? So there's the profile, redevelopment and curation, and then there's like the curation of the algorithm for you so it brings you more options. That's a lot going on there. So if we were to start to break this down, I know you mentioned the profile pieces. What else could we do to continue to make ourselves more visible?
Yeah, absolutely. So I know that in the past, I heard one of your podcasts and you mentioned like the banner is such an amazing real estate, so making sure that that is something that you utilize, because it's so big when you actually look at it, whether it's the mobile device or on the computer, you want to make sure that that really speaks to your personality and your skill sets and what you have to bring for the position. And then inside and outside of LinkedIn, I did want to share a portfolio. Like I have found that those of you that can show samples of the work that you've done It is so important to do that. And obviously, you can bring a portfolio into LinkedIn because LinkedIn has an ability for you to include so much more than what you can include on a resume, right? Your resume is limited to 1 to 2 pages, and you got to be really specific on what you share and what you don't share. But with LinkedIn, you can actually put a link to your portfolio. You could put images of, your portfolio if it's something that's more visual. You can even, if you've ever been interviewed, you can put, little recordings of things that you have done in the past, just so that someone can get to know you better and see how well you maybe resonate with what they're looking for that position. And in addition to portfolios, which we can talk a little bit more in depth, another way to really stand out is by volunteering. I feel like when you are able to showcase things that you have done outside of work, outside of being paid, but something that allows for you to learn maybe a skill set, maybe something that you're trying to become better at, and you volunteer your skills, your time to do that, it just, I think, speaks leaps and bounds about not only your personality, but how you can do that without feeling like you have to get paid for an experience that's so valuable.
Oh my goodness, that's so helpful. And you know what that reminds me of? I work with amazing clients, as I'm sure do you as well. And one of my clients has been volunteering for the past 13 years
Wow.
straight. Like always it's just in her nature, right? And she's interested now in working for ministerial organizations. And surprise, surprise, most, if not all, her volunteer work has been in churches and ministerial organizations. And one of the beautiful things is that when she comes to me, she has all these great skill sets and she's like, I would really love to work for like, a global ministry organization. But I'm not sure if I have the skill sets. I'm not sure. And we've talked in depth about her career and work experience. And, there's always a part where we ask things like, what about your life don't we know? Right? What is it? To put in things like hobbies and interests and volunteer, right? Things like that. And when the 13 years of ministry experience came in, I'm like, this is exactly what a ministry organization wants to know, that you are not simply looking for a job, but this is who you are, especially for ministry, right? And it's different for each organization, but maybe you're applying for a role in ed tech and it turns out you were the PTA mom for the past 10 years. Like all of
Yes.
these pieces are really valuable.
Yes, absolutely. And I mean, my example actually for me personally, when I started volunteering in a nonprofit that would help people that were underemployed and unemployed, just how to interview, how to, get their resume better. Like that's actually how I found out that I had such a passion for doing this type of work. And that was 25 years ago. And so it's just amazing how sometimes volunteering could be a way to meet people, first of all, because I had actually just moved to Orlando back then, but also it was just such a wonderful way to really figure out that this is something that I was super passionate about and something that I ended up, wanting to spend the rest of my career doing. So it is really, really important, I feel like, to utilize these opportunities to learn a little bit more about you and to show, like you said, different skills that you have that you may not have any other way to show at your current position.
Yeah, it's a really great way of kind of saying, I will do this work even if I'm not paid, right? So that's really, really important. And so I appreciate you sharing that. The other piece, too, is as we kind of look into what this means for LinkedIn, is that LinkedIn has another layer of personalization that's just not present in the resume. It's just not present in much less in the applications, right? Where they basically say, where have you worked? That's all we care about, right? The resume gives you ever so slightly more personalization, but then LinkedIn just opens the door wide open. And the pieces of having strong communication skills and not just verbally, but also written communication skills becomes so much more important. So I'd love to just like park it here for just a second. Um, One of the things I see often on LinkedIn, especially in the about section and also in the headline, is too many words, too little value. Have you seen that too? Or is it just me?
No, absolutely. I do find that people begin to just share everything that they can on their LinkedIn, profile because they tell them, okay, just go ahead and, show who you are or share about yourself. But they don't, I think, realize that the whole purpose, especially when you're job searching, I feel like if you want to change it once you get a job and you're happy there, go ahead and change it. That's the beauty of LinkedIn. You can change it at any time. But when you're job searching, you need to really put on like blinders and hone in on what is it that a recruiter or hiring manager needs to know about me today, right now, if they were to look at my profile, that would scream, I am the right candidate for your role. So,
Mhm.
from the headline, you want to share things that relate to the position's title. So, if you can use the words, the keywords that are in the job titles you're looking for, the keywords that are in those job descriptions, things that really expand on how you are equipped, qualified, and the right candidate for those positions. And then in the about section, this is where you really, really want to focus in because you've got a little more space. I tell people it's not just like your summary on your resume where you just have like one little paragraph or a few bullet points. You really want in your about section to share this is how I am the right person for the job. And so, first of all, I really let my clients know remember that when someone's looking at your profile on a mobile device, they only get to see the first 100 characters before they have to click that see more. Or if you're on a computer, it's the first 300 characters. So the very first and second line have to just say the most important thing that you want them to know about you because they may not never click on that see more. So what is it about you that you want them to know right away and that intrigues them to want to learn a little bit more about you? So it may be how is it that, for example, if you're a teacher, that you have all this experience that applies to be a project manager. Like, tell me how you correlate these two things so that they want to learn a little bit more about how you have what it takes to do the position. And so, creating an about section that highlights all of the different requirements, qualifications, skills that they are looking for, and including them in short, I would say short statements. So every 2 to 3 lines, you want to put a space because, again, you want to make it really easy for a recruiter to scan through this section, not like huge blocks of text, so that they can see, okay, this is someone that I think I want to get to figure out a little bit more because it sounds like they may be the right person for the job.
Yeah, absolutely. And that about section, I just think it's such an opportunity, right? Even when you get to your experience section, there's still some parameters there. Bullet points. What did you do in this role, right? Even in your headline, you only have so many characters, right? Your about section is your biggest opportunity to tell your story. And one thing I can tell you, and I'm going to be very honest here because I care about you, one thing I can tell you is that, you know, branding takes time. We used to think of communications as the easiest major. Oh, just take communications. It's such an easy. That's because there weren't results attached on the end of it. But when you need results, when you need to move people to action, every single word counts. I can tell you because in creating my branding, I have met with multiple marketing and branding coaches, and it has taken me a significant amount of time to say what I need to say very, very clearly. This takes time, it takes skill, and it's a skill you build over time. So the reason I'm bringing this up is because not just in your about section, not just across your LinkedIn, but also in your resume, your cover letter, and even the words that you use as you go into networking and interviewing, right? It's all a message. It's a brand, and you need to get really clear on what that brand is to be able to say it in as short as possible of, sentences, right? Was it Mark Twain that was like, I would have written a shorter letter, but I ran out of time, right? That's like such a well-known quote because it's so true. I can write you a 3-page letter and tell you what I do. And to be honest, that's what many professionals do. You write this really long cover letter. Let me tell you everything I can do for you and try to convince you in 5,000 words, right? But really, some of the best cover letters are a half a page, 3/4 page with nice big font, with, like Giselle said, significant amounts of space, right? And so we're sharing these principles to get you closer to a well branded LinkedIn. But I do encourage you, sometimes if you're looking for early career positions, this can work. If you are a mid-level professional or a higher level professional and you're looking for a real, let's take some leaps here in our career, you really need a professional brand. All that to say, anchor it back to the about section. Your about section is incredibly important. And to get the best jobs with the best pay, you need to find your story and find a way to structure your story well so that people can absorb it quickly and they can remember it.
Absolutely. I love that. I did want to share some things that people should not do on their LinkedIn profile because I feel like we have, so many like tips on like do this and do this. But let's
Yes,
talk
this
a
is so
minute
needed. So needed.
about what not to do. First thing I actually encourage people is do not put your current job title or company name on your headline because if you are focusing on something that's a little bit different than what you're currently doing or what you've done in the past, then focus your headline on that, right? So you really want to be forward thinking and don't include your company name in your headline because remember, the headline is so short and it shows up absolutely everywhere. It shows up in every post that you make, in every comment that you make, in every recommended, connection. So you want that every word in that headline to count and you want it to be focused on what is it that you want to be doing. The next thing is that you want to make sure that when you comment or when you post, and I do encourage you to, I know it takes a lot of courage, but to post, share what you, if you're okay sharing what you're looking for, create a post that shares your story and how you are looking to do something new and share a little bit about what you're looking for. But even if you just comment on other people's posts, be really, really careful about the posts that are complaining about employers and these types of companies and what recruiters and hiring managers are and are not doing. Because guess what? They are the ones that have the complete control of whether or not you get an interview. And if you are blasting the fact that recruiters are ghosting you left and right, or that you had a terrible interview experience or, application experience, it's just going to hurt you. Unfortunately, it may be true. And I do care. Share that with a friend, share that with a coach, with a mentor.
Privately.
Vent, yes, vent all you want, but not on LinkedIn. Do not vent negatively towards any company, even if it's your current company. I always, always tell people that are job searching, listen, if you ever speak badly during an interview or even in in LinkedIn about your current employer, let's say you're, saying my manager is absolutely terrible and that's why I'm leaving or whatever negative thing you're saying about a previous or current employer, the employer you're talking to is going to think this is what you're going to say about us in the future. And so be so careful on how you address recruiters, current managers, hiring individuals, because again, in this season of job searching, it is so important that you just, respect every person throughout the process because they are the ones that will give you an opportunity for this next career or job move that you have. So just be extra, extra cautious on commenting on things that may not be great. And I get it. We feel, especially in this job market where it's taking months and months and months to get even to land an interview, like you want to make sure venting with friends, venting with people
Yeah.
that you can share with.
Kind of like the 1 minute manager, right? You correct privately and you recognize publicly. And it very much reminds me of, there was a video, I will not say who, but there was a video of a person who recorded their layoff or their termination conversation and put it on TikTok or put it on whatever. It went absolutely viral and she was so supported in so many ways. But then came the aftermath that now forever that is on the internet, right? And there's a scripture that says pride comes before a fall. And there's this like concept of, I mean, let's talk pop culture. Look at Blake Lively. Like, look at what's happening, right? The immense amount of pridefulness, right? And how quickly a person can fall. And so being able to share your frustration privately shows number one, that sense of We're all humans. And if I were a recruiter, I don't know what they go through on the day to day, right? We don't know. And could they do work? Could they have answered? Yes, absolutely. Like it doesn't negate your experience, but at the same time, you want to know what game you're playing. And then you want to play that game to win. So if we let our feelings kind of run and change our level of opportunity, that's when it's no longer beneficial for us. And so I love that you brought that up because I'm like, ooh, I just want you to have every single possible opportunity available to you so that you can decide, I would like to work with this company. I would not like to work with this other company because of the way they treated me during the hiring process, right? But at least now you have the choice.
Absolutely. And as you're applying, think about what you have posted on Facebook, on Instagram, on TikTok, whatever, all the things, because I'll tell you something, it costs a lot of money for a company to hire somebody and then find out that there's something that is just not right with, something you've posted on social media somewhere. And then they have to let you go and then go through the whole hiring process again. Like that costs the company a lot of money. So guess what? That company is going to research you before they hire you. And so just know that I mean, I know I've had people say, "Well, that's not fair. This is my private, Facebook page or whatever page." And I'm like, "I know, but you know what? It costs the company so much money to hire somebody, have to train somebody, and then have to do it all over again, that I just want you to know that if there's something currently, like you may again be sharing how frustrating this job search market may be, and you're thinking, well, it's on TikTok or it's just on, Facebook. Nobody's going to
Mm,
see that. Please know these companies, these recruiters, like they can find stuff out because they rather know before hiring somebody. Right. It's just
yes.
it's so much it's so much better for them to figure out before than after making that hire and then have to let go of somebody.
Ladies, well, I will just share my story and you can tell me if you resonate. You're like in your teens, right? And the guy you're dating is like doing weird things and you're like, I'm going to be a sleuth and I'm going to figure out who they're talking, like those, it's that level of skill that can go into this. Okay, you would be surprised what can be dug up. And so make sure and keep things clean. Now, okay, so I know we're starting to kind of round out this episode, and so I did not want to miss this very important piece. So in your LinkedIn, you have an opportunity to feature. You can put items kind of a little bit higher on the list, give them some more media attention, like more visuals. It can be a link, number of different things on here. One of the things that like I really love to see on here and is not done often. So talk about a gap in the market, talk about an opportunity is a video resume where you can really script out and share your experience similar to what's in your about section, but remember it's kind of like a pyramid. The foundation is going to be a full-on experience for your target role. But then as you get higher into the peak at the very top, imagine it's just like the logo, Nike, just do it, right? One logo represents everything on the bottom. And so in the middle, to me, is that video resume. It's only a few minutes, but it takes your entire experience and it kind of puts it in an easy to absorb way. And now the manager actually gets to see not only your story, but also your personality. So I personally love to see video resumes. I encourage them, although people don't often take me up on that. I'm curious to hear what else you think might be in the featured section that would give added value.
Yes, yeah. So I mentioned the portfolio at the beginning, and that is such a wonderful,
Yes.
wonderful just opportunity to showcase what you have done. I know that for many, if you have, let's say, a business degree, or if you go to school for education, anything that, you may have a case project to do at the end of your maybe your last senior year, you will create some kind of project. Maybe it's an internship. You created something or you worked on something that you were able to showcase that goes above and beyond just whatever you have written on your resume. You may be able to write a little short, 3 bullet points on what you did, but to show samples of your work. Maybe you did. I used to work with students that did programming. To show their programming, in a portfolio is just so important because you're not just talking. Like in an interview, you're just sharing your experience. Here, you are showing it to them. You can even bring an actual portfolio talk about old school here, but you could actually bring an actual printed portfolio to an interview and actually show somebody when they ask you a question, can you tell me about a time that you worked on programming something? And you're like, you know what? I actually can show you. Here's a copy of what I done. I know that sounds super, old school or out of the way, but it just takes a little bit of printing or, it copying and pasting, putting it on a website, so that you can showcase that in that featured section of your LinkedIn profile. And it's going to make such an impact because you're going above and beyond. Just think about how can you stand out from the hundreds and thousands of people that are applying to the same job? How can you show versus just telling what you have experience doing and how you are qualified? Because maybe you don't have a ton of experience in that field, but you've been able to do things that show that you have the
Mm.
experience. Maybe you've done certifications, and in those certifications, you've been able to show that you've learned what it takes to have the skills that they're asking for. So making sure you have these, sometimes it's called a potential proof document that, showcases what you have to offer. It really will make you stand out from the crowd.
Oh, this is great. Two things. One, it's kind of like mom jeans that made a comeback, right?
Yes.
Something that is like, you think of it as old school. It is absolutely necessary now. You need more ways to tell your story. And I also love how you mentioned, what was it? You said show, don't tell, which we all kind of hear and we sometimes even look past because it's said so often, right? But just walk with me here. If I were in an interview and you were looking to hire, and I, along with everybody else, all the other 10, 15 candidates, said something like, well, I had this data set and it had about 5,000 records. And for each record, there were 15 data points, making up about 100,000 total data points. And we were able to process that. That's a lot of information to process. So when the hiring leader is hearing this, they're trying to translate that into something they can absorb and remember later. But like most of us, they might hear multiple numbers and now they're like, I don't remember how many records and how many data points and is that really important? And they don't really understand it very quickly. But if you were to show them a dashboard and they're able to see the depth of information on the dashboard, they almost don't need to know the exact number of the records because they're just going to see the dimensions of the dashboard the way that you can easily use, whether it's what is it, Tableau or Power BI, the way you've used it to tell the story. And it's really difficult to explain, especially if this is your zone of genius. It's really difficult to explain how you translated data into insights differently than other people. But if you show it, you almost don't need to say anything.
Yes, yes. A picture's worth a thousand words. That is
Oh,
so true. Absolutely. One more thing I wanted to touch on with what you mentioned earlier with the video resume is if you also can create Loom videos, which Loom, you can use for free when you're reaching out to individuals. We talked about networking last time, but just creating a little Loom video to reach out to somebody or creating a Loom video as you are going through your resume. If you're really shy about seeing yourself on camera, Loom can just show the screen, right? So let's just say you have your resume on the screen and you're walking through your resume as you're recording this kind of voiceover through your resume and you're telling stories about your experience. So they're not just looking at your resume on the screen, but you're sharing examples and stories that have to do with what you have done in those different positions and how they relate to what you are going to be doing in this new job that you're applying for.
oh my gosh, I absolutely love that. And if you didn't know, Loom has this really cool feature where you can de-emphasize yourself. So you're just a little bubble on the top, right? And so I mean, ladies, I know, I know that getting on camera is like next to death, right? Sometimes you're like, I don't really want to, unless you're, of a newer generation. I did not grow up making TikToks and dancing on camera and doing all those. Like, that's just not me, right? And if you're middle of your career, it's probably not you either, right? So Loom has this really cool feature where you can put the resume on focus and you're just sort of a small bubble on the end. So it gives that personality without feeling like you need that zoom, clear up my appearance or improve my appearance. You don't need that because the image is smaller.
Yes.
Okay. So I absolutely love that. I think that was such a value add. And if you're not doing it yet, this is a great opportunity to show some personality, to share your story, and to really help people get to know you before they decide if they're going to call you in for a screening. So this is super important. And again, being able to be really clear on what you have to say means that your video is going to be shorter. It means that your branding is going to do the talking for you. So it's a lot less pressure if you do have that created for you professionally. Okay. We're about to kind of wind down this episode. And so, as people have sat in with us, and if you're listening, you're probably like, okay, I kind of have a handle on a lot of different things we can do on LinkedIn. What are some things, some final thoughts that we can share to motivate people to action in this space? Because I know that it's so easy because we're busy women, we're working in our job. So now you're asking us to do something on LinkedIn, right? What motivation could you give for that?
Yes, it really is. And honestly, job searching is a full-time job, right? So you are probably, if you are working full-time and you're looking for a job, it is like you're carrying two full-time jobs right now. So we see you, and I know it's not easy, but you really want to circumvent the system as much as possible. And LinkedIn is really a way to do that because you can have an amazing resume, but nobody's going to see it because, right, nobody sees it until somebody pulls it out of an application, that maybe or may not, have all the right keywords for it to have been pulled up, and they're going to call you for an interview. But LinkedIn can be something that, like we talked about, last time, you network your way that someone looks you up and they're like, okay, I want to learn more about this person because they really look like they have all the things that we're looking for. So trying to spend a few minutes, if you want, just a few minutes a day, and set your goal so that by the end of the month, you can make your LinkedIn something that you're really proud of, that whenever you meet someone, you could just share your LinkedIn profile so that they can learn a lot more about you than if you were to send them your resume, and have all these great extras that will make you stand out from everybody else that has a LinkedIn account and they don't have all these extra, things that they've added to their LinkedIn. One little thing that I want to add is the skill section is super important because so many recruiters are searching by skills. And if you match the skills, then your profile is going to come up. So make sure that as you look for jobs, search in that very search box for your job, your dream job title. And then many jobs on LinkedIn have a list of skills that are relevant to that position. And you could just click on the plus sign to add those skills to your profile again so that you can be found when they're searching for these skills.
Yeah, and that episode she mentioned, by the way, is episode 105. And so if you maybe are just popping in here for this 2 out of 3, right? Giselle's with us for 3 whole episodes. And the first one, episode 105, was published on April 1st. So go ahead and catch that one. Then you'll be caught up on this one. And then you can meet us again on May 27th. Now, that was one thing. I just wanted to let you know what episode that was. But also, so we've given a couple of tips, things that you could go to your LinkedIn right now, make some changes, or go to that application you're about to send in on LinkedIn, click plus on those skills for the positions where it applies for you. But at the same time, like we mentioned, it takes time and there's a skill set and a talent that people like Giselle and I have been developing for years now, right? Giselle's been teaching concepts like these for years. I have as well. I think combined, we probably have like 30 years plus, is my guess, of
Absolutely.
experience in like, career search and branding and all these pieces. And so if you would like either one of us to do a LinkedIn review for you, please do reach out to us on LinkedIn. I'm going to go ahead and put both of our LinkedIn links. Let us know that you heard us on the Uncommon Career podcast because we love to hear from you and we'll do a LinkedIn review for you. Now, in addition to that, though, if this episode was helpful for you, next week we're going to be talking point by point what you can do to stand out at every single piece of the job search process. And you would be surprised at how many places, how many points in the selection process you can actually put yourself above and beyond the pool of candidates, right? To make sure that you are moved forward at every point and hopefully that you get your offer a little faster. Now, Giselle, it has been a wonderful time hanging out with you. What are are some final words that you have for folks?
I just want to encourage you all right now in this job market. It's not an easy job market, but it is one where your job is out there. You are just a few steps away. And remember, every no you get is just getting you closer to that yes. So don't get discouraged. Know that your position is out there. Just try to do everything that you can on your side to be found by these organizations that are going to be super blessed to have you when they do hire you.
Absolutely. And when you need some help to make sure that your strategy is in place, definitely reach out to one of us or any career coach that you know is going to provide you with the professionalism and the skill set and the skill development that is needed in this branding piece to make your career change happen. Again, my friend, thank you so much for joining us. I'm so grateful that you're with us. We are now at episode 109. And so praise the Lord for that. Let us know if you have any questions whatsoever. Thanks again for joining us. Know that we love you. We're praying for you. We'll see you on the next one. Hey, thanks for listening. I really appreciate you spending time with me today. If you found this episode helpful, please tap the 5-star review on the show's homepage in your podcast app. It would absolutely make my day, and it helps others discover the Uncommon Career Podcast. Now, to download your free career resources and learn how I help seasoned professionals land amazing offers in as little as 90 days, click on the link in the description or go to theuncommoncareer.com. Thanks again, and I'll see you on the next one.